Yo, happy Wednesday afternoon. I think we're ready to rock. After, of course, I get the music and the sound check in order, but we've been pretty consistently good with all that. Almost so much I might just chuck it out, just say, I don't need this. Nah, we always wanna make sure. See? There he is, and it's sounding good, it's looking good. So yep, happy Wednesday afternoon or evening, or maybe it's still morning. Maybe you're like in that weird spot in the Pacific Ocean. Hard to say for sure, I guess. Oh, not that one. Okay, cool. So I hope everybody's excited, ready to continue with Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga. I know I am, because this book is great, and this yoga is great. Swami Vivekananda was a real gift to mankind. All right, there we go, and music. Cool. So let us begin. We left off yesterday with chapter 5, I suppose this would be. Vivekananda was hitting us with some information about guru and teachers. So today, chapter 5 will start us off with some more of that. Qualifications of the aspirant and the teacher. Let's go ahead and get right in it. How are we to know a teacher then? The sun requires no torch to make him visible. We need not the we need not light a candle in order to see him. When the sun rises, we instinctively become aware of the fact. And when a teacher of men comes to help us, the soul will instinctively know that truth has already begun to shine upon it. Truth stands on its own evidence. It does not require any other testimony to prove it true. It is self effulgent. It penetrates into the innermost corners of our nature, and in its presence, the whole universe stands up and says, this is truth. Federicon L5R. Welcome in. Amen. Right? Amen. Hey, and everybody else just coming in. Welcome in. It's good to have you all here. The teachers whose wisdom and truth shine like the light of the sun are the very greatest the world has known, and they are worshipped as God by the major portion of mankind. But we may get help from comparatively lesser ones also. Yeah, we definitely can. That's what I've been saying. A lot of these teachers out here are pretty crap, but that doesn't mean you can't still, you know, get some value out of it, learn some things out of it. One of the main things I like to learn from some of these teachers is what not to do. Only we ourselves do not possess intuition enough to judge properly of man from whom we receive teaching and guidance. So there ought to be certain tests, certain conditions for the teacher to satisfy, as there are also for the taught. The conditions necessary for the taught are purity, a real thirst after knowledge, and perseverance. Joshua Watson, welcome in. Josh Watson says, I'm a priest and a belief in a synagogue. Sick. That's awesome. No impure soul can be really religious. Purity in thought, speech, and act is absolutely necessary for anyone to be religious. As to the thirst after knowledge, it is an old law that we all get whatever we want. None of us can get anything other than what we fix our hearts upon. To pant for religion truly is a very difficult thing, not at all so easy as we generally imagine. Hearing religious talks or reading religious books is no proof yet of a real want felt in the heart. There must be a continuous struggle, a constant fight, an unremitting grappling with our lower nature till the higher want is actually felt and the victory is achieved. It is not a question of 1 or 2 days, of years, or of lives. The struggle may have to go on for hundreds of lifetimes. The success sometimes may come immediately, but we must be ready to wait patiently, even for what may look like an infinite length of time. The student who sets out with such a spirit of perseverance will surely find success and realization at last. Welcome in, everybody, just coming in. In regard to the teacher, we must see that he knows the spirit of the scriptures. The whole world reads Bibles, Vedas, and Korans, but they are all only words, syntax, etymology, philology, the dry bones of religion. The teacher who deals too much in words and allows the mind to be carried away by the force of words loses the spirit. Yeah, keep that in mind with your fun little NLP. Sir Impeccable, what's up, bro? Good to have you in here. Much love to you. It is the knowledge of the Spirit, of the Scriptures alone, that constitutes the true religious teacher. The network of the words of the Scriptures is like a huge forest, in which the human mind often loses itself and finds no way out. The network of words is a big forest. It is the cause of a curious wandering of the mind. The various methods of joining words, the various methods of speaking in beautiful language, the various methods of explaining the diction of the scriptures are only for the disputations and enjoyment of the learned. They do not conduce to the development of spiritual perception. Those who employ such methods to impart religion to others are only desirous to show off their learning, so that the world may praise them as great scholars. You will find that no one of the great teachers of the world ever went into these various explanations of the texts. There is with them no attempt at text torturing, no eternal playing upon the meaning of words and their roots. Yet they nobly taught, while others who have nothing to teach have taken up a word, sometimes and written a 3 volume book on its origin, on the man who used it first, and on what that man was accustomed to eat, and how long he slept, and so on. Bhagavan Ramakrishna used to tell a story of some men who went into a mango orchard and busied themselves in counting the leaves, the twigs, and the branches, examining their color, comparing their size, and noting down everything most carefully, and then got up a learned discussion on each of these topics, which were undoubtedly highly interesting to them. But one of them, more sensible than the others, did not care for all these things, and instead thereof began to eat the mango fruit. And was he not wise? So leave this counting of leaves and twigs and note taking to others. This kind of work has its proper place, but not here in the spiritual domain. You never see a strong spiritual man among these leaf counters. Religion, the highest glory of man, does not require so much labor. If you want to be a bhakta, it is not at all necessary for you to know whether Krishna was born in Mathura or in Vraja, what he was doing, or just the exact date on which he pronounced the teachings of the Gita. You only require to feel the craving for the beautiful lessons of duty and love in the Gita. All the other particulars about it and its author are for the enjoyment of the learned. Let them have what they learn. Or let me start that again. Let them have what they desire. Say shanti, shanti. to their learned controversies, and let us eat the mangoes. I'll say, Coop TGS, welcome in. Oh, it's great to have you here. Yeah, let us eat the mangoes. Because, here's a little something. A lot of these internet occultists, teachers, yeah, really what all they have is what they're doing is the Marge Simpson piano lessons. So if any of you never saw The Simpsons or never saw that episode of The Simpsons where Marge was going to start teaching piano lessons, and Homer says, "But you don't even know how to play piano." And she says, "Yeah, but as long as I stay one lesson ahead of the students, I'll be fine." So yeah, most of these internet occultists just have like, a few to maybe even, a decade of years of a head start on you. And so they've just read a bunch of extra books and something like, but then really, they really reveal themselves if you just pay enough attention. So save your money. Get what you can still obviously get the fruit out of it that's there because there's still gonna be things. I mean, but save your money. The second condition necessary in the teacher is sinlessness. The question is often asked, why should we look into the character and personality of a teacher? We have only to judge of what he says and take that up. This is not right. If a man wants to teach me something of dynamics, of chemistry, or any other physical science, he may be anything he likes because what the physical sciences require is merely an intellectual equipment. But in the spiritual sciences, it is impossible from first to last that there can be any spiritual light in the soul that is impure. What religion can an impure man teach? The sine qua non of acquiring spiritual truth for oneself or for imparting it to others is the purity of heart and soul. A vision of God or a glimpse of the beyond never comes until the soul is pure. Hence, with the teacher of religion, we must see first what he is and then what he says. Sir Impeccable says, I will always stay a student because I don't know anything. Facts, man. Facts. Yep. I'm not gonna be out here. You're not gonna catch me trying to call myself a teacher or sell courses or any of that because yeah, man, I'm forever learning in this and I'm just more than happy to invite other people to learn with me. I'll tell you who can have a pass on that though. Damian Eccles. That dude spent a good chunk of his life on death row. You know what I mean? And so, he can kind of, in my opinion, he's one of the very, very few who can get a pass on taking internet courses or classes of retreats. Other than that, more majority of these other people just get a job, quit being a bum. All right, let's see. Oh, somewhere right in here. I think I finished that highlighted part. Yeah, hence, with the teacher of religion, we must see first what he is and then what he says. He must be perfectly pure, and then alone comes the value of his words, because he is only then the true transmitter. What can he transmit? If he has not spiritual power in himself, there must be the worthy vibration of spirituality in the mind of the teacher, so that it may be sympathetically conveyed to the mind of the taught. The function of the teacher is indeed an affair of the transference of something, and not one of mere stimulation of the existing intellectual or other faculties in the taught. Something real and appreciable as an influence comes from the teacher and goes to the taught. Therefore, the teacher must be pure. The third condition is in regard to the motive. The teacher must not teach with any ulterior selfish motive for money, name, or fame. His work must be simply out of love, out of pure love for mankind at large. The only medium through which spiritual force can be transmitted is love. Boom, there you go. See, Swami V, don't see, like I say, my ramblings, who am I? What does it matter? But there, Swami Vivekananda, definitely one of the spiritual giants who graced the earth with his teachings, is telling you right there, straight up. If these people are out here trying to charge money and all of that, and unless they, like Damien Eccles, had some kind of you know, wrongful imprisonment to where Damien has a pretty good excuse for not going out and working amongst the public. The rest of you are just lame. You just don't want to deal with other humans. Oh, I can't stand these humans. Grow up. Any selfish motive, such as the desire for gain or for name, will immediately destroy this conveying medium. God is love, and only he who has known God as love can be a teacher of godliness and God to man. My gnosis, yo. Welcome in, fam. Good to see you. When you see that in your teacher these conditions are fulfilled, you are safe. If they are not, it is unsafe to allow yourself to be taught by him, for there is the great danger that if he cannot convey goodness to your heart, he may convey wickedness. Oh no. This danger must by all means be guarded against. He who is learned in the scriptures, sinless, unpolluted by lust, and is the greatest knower of the Brahman, is the real teacher. From what has been said, it naturally follows that we cannot be taught to love, appreciate, and assimilate religion everywhere and by everybody. I need to take a drink. For those of you wondering, today we're rocking the Sprite Chill Cherry Lime. Oh, it's a yummy one. All right. The books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything is all very true as a poetical figure. Yeah, real quick, I'll tell you, yeah, what's one a great teacher is nature. If you're of any kind of spiritual discipline and you're not spending significant amounts of time in nature, well, you're messing up, I'll tell you that. But nothing can impart to a man a single grain of truth unless he has the undeveloped germs of it in himself. My gnosis, yes, that Sprite is good, dude. It's fire. It's really good. To whom do the stones and the brooks preach sermons? To the human soul, the lotus of whose inner holy shrine is already quick with life. And the light which causes the beautiful opening out of this lotus comes always from the good and wise teacher. When the heart has thus been opened, it becomes fit to receive teaching from the stones or the brooks, the stars or the sun or the moon, or from anything which has its existence in our divine universe. But the unopened heart will see in them nothing but mere stones or mere brooks. A blind man may go to a museum, but he will not profit by it in any way. His eyes must be open first, and then alone he will be able to learn what the things in the museum can teach. The Yeah, give it a shot. You'll like it. This eye opener of the aspirant after religion is the teacher. With the teacher, therefore, our relationship is the same as that between an ancestor and his descendant. Without faith, humility, submission, and veneration in our hearts towards our religious teacher, there cannot be any growth of religion in us. And it is a significant fact that where this kind of relation where this kind of relation between the teacher and the taught prevails, there alone gigantic spiritual men are growing. While in those countries which have neglected to keep up this kind of relation, the religious teacher has become a mere lecturer. The teacher expecting his $5, and the person taught expecting his brain to be filled with the teacher's words, and each going his own way after this much has been done. Under such circumstances, spirituality becomes almost an unknown quantity. There is none to transmit it, and none to have it transmitted to. Religion with such people becomes business. They think they can obtain it with their dollars. Would to God that religion could be obtained so easily, but unfortunately, it cannot be. Yep, like I've said before, you want to know from the money I have spent on different courses and things like that, I've learned I should have just saved my money. I learned, yeah, maybe I definitely didn't learn the money I spent. I might have learned two cool little tips or tricks, but certainly wasn't worth what these people are charging out here. I'll tell you that. Religion, which is the highest knowledge and the highest wisdom, cannot be bought, nor can it be acquired from books. Oh no. Like I said, we better just shut this thing down. You may thrust your head into all the corners of the world. You may explore the Himalayas, the Alps, and the Caucasus. You may sound the bottom of the sea and pry into every nook of Tibet and the desert of Gobi. You will not find it anywhere until your heart is ready for receiving it and your teacher has come. And when that divinely appointed teacher comes, serve him with childlike confidence and simplicity. Freely open your heart to his influence and see in him God manifested. Those who come to seek truth with such a spirit of love and veneration, to them the Lord of truth reveals the most wonderful things regarding truth, goodness, and beauty. Sick. Okay, on to the next, chapter 6. Incarnate teachers and incarnation. You guys can hear that music okay in the back? It's not too loud. Welcome in for the few of you just coming in. Good to have you here. All right. Incarnate teachers and incarnation. Wherever his name is spoken, that very place is holy. One true God is welcome. She says good afternoon, and music sounds perfect. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you. How much more so is the man who speaks his name, and with what veneration ought we to approach that man out of whom comes to us spiritual truth? Such great teachers of spiritual truth are indeed very few in number in this world, but the world is never altogether without them. They are always the fairest flowers of human life, the ocean of mercy without any motive. My gnosis says it's good. All right. If the two of you say it's good, I know it's good. And Moth Ra, welcome. Always great to have you. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Know the Guru to be me, says Sri Krishna in the Bhagavata. The moment the world is absolutely bereft of these, it becomes a hideous hell and hastens on to its destruction. Higher and nobler than all ordinary ones are another set of teachers, the avatars of Ishvara in the world. They can transmit spirituality with a touch, even with a mere wish. The lowest and the most degraded characters become in 1 second saints at their command. They are the teachers of all teachers, the highest manifestations of God through man. We cannot see God except through them. We cannot help worshiping them, and indeed, they are the only ones whom we are bound to worship. No man can really see God except through these human manifestations. If we try to see God otherwise, we make for ourselves a hideous caricature of him and believe the caricature to be no worse than the original. There is a story of an ignorant man who was asked to make an image of the god Shiva, and who, after days of hard struggle, manufactured only the image of a monkey. So, whenever we try to think of God as he is in his absolute perfection, we invariably meet with the most miserable failure, because as long as we are men, we cannot conceive him as anything higher than man. Oh yeah, and then down here I made a little note. Sometimes I make my own little footnotes. I put the Anunnaki or other quote unquote advanced life still humanoid. The time will come when we shall transcend our human nature and know him as he is, but as long as we are men, we must worship him in man and as man. Talk as you may, try as you may, you cannot think of God except as a man. You may deliver great intellectual discourses on God and on all things under the sun, become great rationalists, and prove to your satisfaction that all these accounts of the avatars of God as man are nonsense. But let us come for a moment to practical common sense. What is there behind this kind of remarkable intellect? Zero, nothing, simply so much froth. When next you hear a man delivering a great intellectual lecture against this worship of the avatars of God, get hold of him and ask him what his idea of God is, what he understands by omnipotence, omnipresence, and all similar terms beyond the spelling of the words. Minosis says humans always humanize the divine, and Sir Impeccable says humans can't help it. Yep, exactly. This is kind of part of, I'm pretty sure it's just, part of the function of the ego, function of the mind. That's one of the things that I really like about Islam, is that they say that, you that to how they forbid to draw up any kind of form for Muhammad, right? No, yeah, Muhammad. Allah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Well, Muhammad too. But to me, that says that they get the significance of the formless, and that by giving it form, you're degrading it. But then again, I'm no scholar or expert on Islam. He really means nothing by them. He cannot formulate as their meaning any idea unaffected by his own human nature. He is no better off in this matter than the man in the street who has not read a single book. That man in the street, however, is quiet and does not disturb the peace of the world, while this big talker creates disturbance and misery among mankind. Religion is, after all, realization, and we must make the sharpest distinction between talk and intuitive experience. What we experience in the depths of our soul is realization. Nothing indeed is so uncommon as common sense in regard to this matter. Minosa says, agreed, technically also the same with Christianity. That's why people adapt to Jesus more. They get an image. Yeah, true, true. Well, I don't know. They like to kind of give him that, or God, where Jesus being, I guess, more the image for sure of God on earth, the ones who get it on that level, you know what I mean? But then they still have an idea of like the big God, sitting on the throne, the old man sitting on the throne. Mothra 53 says Ezekiel's vision is one of the few depictions of God in the Bible, and it is far from human. You know what? You're already ahead of the class. Last night it was coming to me. I've got a little bit of a curriculum planned out, so I'm gonna read Part of that curriculum is reading certain books from the Bible, and one of them is going to be Ezekiel. And Sir Impeccable says they need to see it. LOL. Yeah, facts. But if that's what the majority of people need to be able to grasp the concept, and that's just what they need, you know. By our present constitution, we are limited and bound to see God as man. If, for instance, the buffaloes want to worship God, they will, in keeping with their own nature, see him as a huge buffalo. If a fish wants to worship God, it will have to form an idea of him as a big fish. And man has to think of him as a man. And these various conceptions are not due to morbidly active imagination. Man, the buffalo, and the fish all may be supposed to represent so many different vessels, so to say. All these vessels go to the sea of God to get filled with water, each according to its own shape and capacity. In the man, the water takes the shape of a man. In the buffalo, the shape of a buffalo. And in the fish, the shape of a fish. In each of these vessels, there is the same water of the sea of God. When men see him, they see him as a man. And the animals, if they have any conception of God at all, must see him as animal, each according to its own ideal. So we cannot help seeing God as man, and therefore we are bound to worship him as man. There is no other way. Sir Impeccable says that's why Bobby said, "Don't throw your Bible away. It's still jewelry in there." Yup, facts. Oh yeah, don't throw that away. Nope. That's gonna be fun to rip in on some Bible stories. I got some fun things planned for us on this channel. So I'm glad to have you guys rocking with me. Two kinds of men do not worship God as man: the human brute who has no religion, and the Paramahamsa who has risen beyond all the weaknesses of humanity and has transcended the limits of his own human nature. To him, all nature has become his own self. He alone can worship God as he is. Here, too, as in all other cases, the two extremes meet: the extreme of ignorance and the other extreme of knowledge. Neither of these go through acts of worship. The human brute does not worship because of his ignorance, and the Jivan Muktas, free souls, do not worship because they have realized God in themselves. Being between these two poles of existence, if anyone tells you that he is not going to worship God as man, take kindly care of that man. He is, not to use any harsher term, an irresponsible talker. His religion is for unsound and empty brains. Yikes. God understands human feelings and becomes man to do good to humanity. Whenever virtue subsides and wickedness prevails, I manifest myself to establish virtue, to destroy evil, to save the good. I come from yuga, age to yuga. So I come from age to age, or I come from yuga to yuga. Fools deride me, who have assumed the human form, without knowing my real nature as the Lord of the universe. Such is Sri Krishna's declaration in the Gita on incarnation. When a huge tidal wave comes, says Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, all the little brooks and ditches become full to the brim without any effort or consciousness on their own part. So when an incarnation comes, a tidal wave of spirituality breaks upon the world, and people feel spirituality almost full in the air. It's like that Phil Collins song, huh? All right, chapter 7. After a drink, of course. All right. The mantra, Om, word and wisdom. But we are now considering not these Mahapurushas, the great incarnations, but only the Siddha Gurus, teachers who have attained the goal. They, as a rule, have to convey the germs of spiritual wisdom to the disciple by means of words, mantras, to be meditated upon. What are these mantras? The whole of this universe has, according to Indian philosophy, both name and form, namarupa, as its conditions of manifestation. In the human microcosm, there cannot be a single wave in the mind stuff, chitta vritti, unconditioned by name and form. If it be true that nature is built throughout on the same plan, this kind of conditioning by name and form must also be the plan of the building of the whole of the cosmos. As one lump of clay being known, all things of clay are known. So, the knowledge of the microcosm must lead to the knowledge of the macrocosm. Now, form is the outer crust of which the name or idea is the inner essence or kernel. The body is the form, and the mind or the antakarana is the name. And sound symbols are universally associated with nama, name, in all beings having the power of speech. In the individual man, the thought waves rising in the limited mahat or chitta, mind stuff, must manifest themselves, first as words and then as the more concrete forms. In the universe, Brahma or Hiranyagarbha or the cosmic Mahat first manifested himself as name, and then as form, i.e., as the universe. All this expressed sensible universe is the form behind which stands the eternal, inexpressible Sphota, the manifester as logos or word. This eternal Sphota, actually, you know what? I don't think that if since it's Sanskrit, I don't think they do a ph like a f. I'm pretty sure it's Spahota. The essential eternal material of all ideals or names is the power through which the Lord creates the universe. Nay, the Lord first becomes conditioned as the Spahota and then evolves himself out as the yet more concrete sensible universe. This Spahota has one word as its only possible symbol, and this is the Om. Coop DGS says, I was looking up Vivekananda's death. Pretty interesting. He definitely came here to do one thing and then popped out of here. I don't think I've ever looked up how he died. Or if I have, then I'm definitely not remembering. And as by no possible means of analysis can we separate the word from the idea. This Om and the eternal Spota are inseparable, and therefore it is out of this holiest of all holy words, the mother of all names and forms, the eternal Om, that the whole universe may be supposed to have been created. But it may be said that although thought and word are inseparable, yet as there may be various word symbols for the same thought, it is not necessary that this particular word Om should be the word representative of the thought, out of which the universe has been manifested. To this objection, we reply that this Om is the only possible symbol which covers the whole ground, and there is none other like it. The Spota is the material of all worlds, yet it is not any definite word in its fully formed state. That is to say, if all peculiarities which distinguish one word from another be removed, then what remains will be the spota. Therefore, this spota is called the Nada Brahma, the sound Brahman. Now, as every word symbol intended to express the inexpressible spota will so particularize it that it will no longer be the spota, that symbol which peculiarizes it the least and at the same time most approximately expresses its nature will be the truest symbol thereof. And this is the Om, and the Om only, because these three letters, AUM, pronounced in combination as Om, may well be generalized, may be the may well be the generalized symbol of all possible sounds. Shout out my notes. He did a lecture where he went in on that. I think that was that in the Dark Veil Lifted? See, Mothra says he died in meditation, brain aneurysms, but deaf him shooting out of his crown chakra. He was 39. Dang. Dang. Right? He popped in real quick. He said, "All right, I gotta drop some gems, and then I'm headed right back out." Minosa says, "Yeah, it was." All right, I thought so. That was a great lecture, by the way. Okay, where was I at? Right about here. The letter A is the least differentiated of all sounds. Therefore, Krishna says in the Gita, I am A among the letters. Again, all articulate sounds are produced in the space within the mouth, beginning with the root of the tongue and ending in the lips. The throat sound is A, and M is the last lip sound. And the U exactly represents the rolling forward of the impulse, which begins at the root of the tongue till it ends in the lips. Oh, you're good, bro. My notes says, sorry, I'm driving, listening, but can't chat as much. Yeah, I feel you on that. No big deal at all. I know how it is. And Kupti Jazz says, yeah, he completed his mission in just 39 years. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. In the magical world, there was somebody who did. I mean, it's hard to say for sure if that's what they did. Um, but I mean, Andrew Chumley. If any of you are familiar with Andrew Chumley's work, he died on his birthday actually, and under some mysterious circumstances too. Now, I've heard people say it was a failed attempt at crossing the abyss, but personally, I think. I mean, I've read the majority of his work, and he was something else. He was certainly one of the best of the best. And there was also a story Ram Dass will tell about this like random Russian dude he met who wanted to learn some yoga and all that. And this was also back more in the hippie days, so everybody was doing all kinds of substances. And but this Russian dude, after a certain point, he pretty much was like, all right, I think I know. I think I've got enough of this yoga down. I'm gonna go to like my parents' ranch down in the southwestern United States or whatever, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna transcend the body or whatever. And so they ended up finding him dead in a cave, and Ram Dass was like thinking like, oh, this dude just took too much or whatever, and that's what happened. But then when he went back to India and saw his guru, um, he somehow it got brought up, or he went to, maybe he even wanted to ask his guru. I don't remember exactly, but either way, they're talking about it, and Ram Dass was getting all smug about like, oh yeah, well he was just doing some substances or whatever, and his guru right away shut him up, and he said, nope, he's with me. he's with Christ and pointed at the heart center. You know what I mean? So that's another example of that. All right, where was I at? If properly pronounced, this Om will represent the whole phenomenon of sound production, and no other word can do this. And this, therefore, is the fittest symbol of the spota, which is the real meaning of the Om. And as the symbol can never be separated from the thing signified, the Om and the spota are one. And as the spota, being the finer side of the manifested universe, is nearer to God, and is indeed the first manifestation of divine wisdom, this Om is truly symbolic of God. Again, just as the one only Brahman, the Akhanda Satchidananda, the undivided existence knowledge. I was like, is that supposed to be Satchitananda? It is. It's just spelled different than I'm normally used to seeing it. So the Akhanda Satchitananda, the undivided existence knowledge and bliss, can be conceived by imperfect human souls only from particular standpoints and associated with particular qualities. So this universe, his body, has also to be the thought of along the line of the thinker's mind. This direction of the worshipper's mind is guided by its prevailing elements or tattvas. The result is that the same God will be seen in various manifestations as the possessor of various predominant qualities, and the same universe will appear as full of manifold forms. Even as in the case of the least differentiated and the most universal symbol Om, thought and sound symbol are seen to be inseparably associated with each other. So also this law of their inseparable association applies to many differentiated views of God and the universe. Each of them, therefore, must have a particular word symbol to express it. These word symbols evolved out of the deepest spiritual perception of sages. Symbols symbolize and express as nearly as possible that particular view of God and the universe they stand for. And as the Om represents the Akhanda, the undifferentiated Brahman, the others represent the Khanda, or the differentiated views of the same being, and they are all helpful to divine meditation and the acquisition of true knowledge. All right, we'll probably hit this chapter and then maybe call it good for the day. Maybe that we'll see. We'll see how we're feeling by the time it's done. So this should be chapter 8, worship of substitutes and images. The next points to be considered are the worship of pratikas, or of things more or less satisfactory as substitutes for God, and the worship of pratimas, or images. What is the worship of God through a pratika? Joining the mind with devotion to that which is not Brahman, taking it to be Brahman, says Bhagavan Ramanuja. Worship the mind as Brahman. This is eternal. Excuse me, this is internal. And the Akasha as Brahman, this is with regard to the Devas, says Shankara. The mind is an internal pratika, the Akasha is an external one, and both have to be worshipped as substitutes of God. He continues, similarly, the sun is Brahman, this is the command. He who worships name as Brahman, in all such passages, the doubt arises as to the worship of pratikas. The word pratika means going towards and work and worshiping a pratika. Oh, my bad. I'm going to do that again. The word pratika means going towards. And worshiping a pratika is worshiping something as a substitute, which is in some one or more respects like Brahman more and more, but it is not Brahman. Along with the pratikas mentioned in the Shrutis, there are various others to be found in the Puranas and the Tantras. In this kind of pratika worship may be included all the various forms of Pitri worship and Deva worship. Now, worshiping Ishvara and him alone is bhakti. The worship of anything else, Deva or Pitri or any other being, cannot be bhakti. The various kinds of worship of the various devas are all to be included in ritualistic karma, which gives to the worshipper only a particular result in the form of some celestial enjoyment, but can neither give rise to bhakti nor lead to mukti. One thing, therefore, has to be carefully borne in mind. If, as it may happen in some cases, the highly philosophic idea, the supreme Brahman, is dragged down by pratika worship to the level of the pratika, and the pratika itself is taken to be the Atman of the worshipper, or his antaryaman, the worshipper gets entirely misled, and no pratika can really be the Atman of the worshipper. But where Brahman himself is the object of worship, and the pratika stands only as a substitute or a suggestion thereof, that is to say, where through the pratika the omnipresent Brahman is worshipped, the pratika itself being idealized into the cause of all, Brahman, the worship is positively beneficial. Nay, it is absolutely necessary for all mankind until they have all got beyond the primary or preparatory state of the mind in regard to worship. When, therefore, any gods or other beings are worshipped in and for themselves, such worship is only a ritualistic karma. And as a vidya science, it gives us only the fruit belonging to that particular vidya. But when the devas or any other beings are looked upon as Brahman and worshipped, the result obtained is the same as by the worshipping of Ishvara. Yep, that's hey Zero. Welcome in. Great to have you. Yeah, that's why even though I have different goddesses to, or just even all kinds of different beings really to work with. Not a ton, but still, of all of them, I just realized that that's the way I'm approaching it, and I think that's where a lot of people get screwed up, and especially in the our modern Western society, because so many people, for one reason or another, have such a vendetta against God, um, especially that Christian lens of it, and but then what they do is then they just find out about like Hecate or whatever, and just now that they just do the exact same thing as Christians, but now over here, now where they're doing all this worship and devotion to Hecate, and but not seeing it as what it's meant to be seen as. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one example using Hecate. It's for people do all kind of stuff, or just your standard flip of the coin where people want to become a Satanist, but it's like you're literally just doing Christianity with a goth aesthetic, basically. A spooky dark side, still exact same thing. Inverted Christianity. Zero says they just change the image, but not the mindset. Exactly. This explains how, in many cases, both in the Shrutis and the Smritis, a god or a sage or some other extraordinary being is taken up and lifted, as it were, out of its own nature and idealized into Brahman, and is then worshipped. Says the Advaitin, is not everything Brahman? when the name and the form have been removed from it? Is not he the Lord, the innermost self of everyone? Says the Vishishtadvaitin. The fruition of even the worship of Adityas, etc. Brahman himself bestows because he is the ruler of all, says Shankara in his Brahma Sutra Bhyasha. Here, in this way, does Brahman become the object of worship, because he, as Brahman, is superimposed on the pratikas, just as Vishnu, etc., are superimposed upon images, etc. The same ideas apply to the worship of the pratimas as to that of the pratikas. That is to say, if the image stands for a god or a saint, the worship is not the result of bhakti and does not lead to liberation. Oh no. But if it stands for the one God, the worship thereof will bring both bhakti and mukti. Heck yeah, baby. Coop says, facts, gods are images for the heart, not the organ, but the principle. Amen. Coop been knowing. Of the principal religions of the world, we see Vedantism, Buddhism, and certain forms of Christianity freely using images. Only two religions, Mohammedanism and Protestantism, refuse such help. Yet the Mohammedans use the graves of their saints and martyrs almost in the place of images, and the Protestants, in rejecting all concrete helps to religion, are drifting away every year farther and farther from spirituality till at present there is scarcely any difference between the advanced Protestants and the followers of Auguste Comte. I don't know how you say that, Auguste Comte, or agnostics who preach ethics alone. Again, in Christianity and Mohammedanism, whatever exists of image worship is made to fall under that category in which the pratika or the pratima is worshipped in itself, but not as a help to the vision, drishti saukaryam of God. Therefore, it is at best only of the nature of ritualistic karmas and cannot produce either bhakti or mukti. In this form of image worship, the allegiance of the soul is given to other things than Ishvara, and therefore such use of images or graves or temples or tombs is real idolatry. It is in itself neither sinful nor wicked. It is a right, a karma, and worshippers must and will get the fruit thereof. All right, and that does it for the chapter. What was that? 7, 8. Oh, this one's short. We better do this one too, and then call it a day. Let's, yeah, that's chapter 8. So this one's chapter 9. Good. It's my favorite number. All right. The chosen ideal. The next thing to be considered is what we know as Ishta Nishta. One who aspires to be a bhakta must know that so many opinions are so many ways. He must know that all the various sects of the various religions are the various manifestations of the glory of the same Lord. One sec, I better make sure this music's not going to end though. I told it to loop, but that doesn't mean it's going to listen. I'll just start it over so we know we're good. They call you by so many names, they divide you, as it were, by different names, yet in each one of these is to be found your omnipotence. You reach the worshipper through all of these. Neither is there any special time so long as the soul has intense love for you. You are so easy of approach. It is by misfortune that I cannot love you. Not only this, the Bhakta must take care not to hate, nor even to criticize those radiant sons of light who are the founders of various sects. He must not even hear them spoken ill of. Very few indeed are those who are at once the possessor of an extensive sympathy and power of appreciation, as well as an intensity of love. We find, as a rule, that liberal and sympathetic sects lose the intensity of religious feeling, and in their hands, religion is apt to degenerate into a kind of politico social club life. On the other hand, intensely narrow sectaries, whilst displaying a very commendable love of their own ideals, are seen to have acquired every particle of that love by hating everyone who is not of exactly the same opinions as themselves. Would to God that this world was full of men who were as intense in their love as worldwide in their sympathies. But such are only few and far between. Yet we know that it is practicable to educate large numbers of human beings into the ideal of a wonderful blending of both the width and the intensity of love. And the way to do that is by this path of the Ishtanishta, or steadfast devotion to the chosen ideal. Every sect of every religion presents only one ideal of its own to mankind. But the eternal Vedantic religion opens to mankind an infinite number of doors for ingress into the inner shrine of divinity, and places before humanity an almost inexhaustible array of ideals, there being in each of them a manifestation of the Eternal One. With the kindest solicitude, the Vedanta points out to aspiring men and women the numerous roads hewn out of the solid rock of the realities of human life by the glorious sons or human manifestations of God, in the past and in the present, and stands with outstretched arms to welcome all, to welcome even those that are yet to be, to that home of truth and that ocean of bliss, wherein the human soul, liberated from the net of Maya, may transport itself with perfect freedom and with eternal joy. Bhakti Yoga, therefore, lays on us the imperative command not to hate or deny any one of the various paths that lead to salvation. Yet, the growing plant must be hedged round to protect it until it has grown into a tree. The tender plant of spirituality will die if exposed too early to the action of a constant change of ideas and ideals. Many people, and I think that's a big struggle you see a lot too, is that because everybody's trying to hurry and microwave their spiritual enlightenment, everybody's trying to become a master of 10 things all at once rather than just keeping a single pointed focus in one department, mastering one thing. And then if you really feel called to go onto another area, then go about it. But hey, Westerners gonna Western. Many people, in the name of what may be called religious liberalism, may be seen feeding their idle curiosity with a continuous succession of different ideals. With them, hearing new things grows into a kind of disease, a sort of religious drink mania. They want to hear new things just by way of getting a temporary nervous excitement. And when one such exciting influence has had its effect on them, they are ready for another. Religion is, with these people, a sort of intellectual opium eating, and there it ends. There is another sort of man, says Bhagavan Ramakrishna, who is like the pearl oyster of the story. The pearl oyster leaves its bed at the bottom of the sea and comes up to the surface to catch the rainwater when the star Swati is in the ascendant. It floats about on the surface of the sea with its shell wide open until it has succeeded in catching a drop of the rainwater, and then it dives deep down to its seabed and there rests until it has succeeded in fashioning a beautiful pearl out of that raindrop. That's so cool. This is indeed the most poetical and forcible way in which the theory of Ishtanishta has ever been put. This ekanishta, or devotion to one ideal, is absolutely necessary for the beginner in the practice of religious devotion. He must say with Hanuman in the Ramayana, though I know that the Lord of Shri and the Lord of Janaki are both manifestations of the same Supreme Being, yet my all in all is the lotus eyed Rama. Or, as was said by the sage Tulasidasa, he must say, take the sweetness of all, sit with all, take the name of all, say yea, yea, but keep your seat firm. Then, if the devotional aspirant is sincere, out of this little seed will come a gigantic tree, like the Indian banyan, sending out branch after branch and root after root to all sides, till it covers the entire field of of religion. Thus, will the true devotee realize that he who has his own ideal in life is worshipped in all ideals by all sects under all names and through all forms. Mothra said, religion is intellectual opium. He just described my parents. Yeah. Well, shoot, and that's what a lot of people are doing now that we're in the age of the outpouring. And so certain occult truths are coming out, forbidden secrets, Gnosticism and all that. That's like the friend I'll talk about here and there. That's what he likes to do, is he just really likes to be entertained, but doesn't really care to, I guess, see it as a spiritual, as a discipline, and as a means to attain moksha. That's the one, right? Or bhakti. But hey, that's his deal. Maybe one day. It ain't today, I know that much. I seen he posted something on Instagram that was yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was and then we're wrapping up for the day, is I'm glad he brought up Hanuman, because that's what I decided to put Hanuman on the thumbnail for this, because if you ask me, Hanuman is kind of like the poster boy of bhakti, because in the Ramayana, well, I haven't read the Ramayana, but I've heard Ram Dass tell a story of the Ramayana, and Hanuman's devotion to Ram is it being so single pointed, you and so deep that sometimes you'll see the images of Hanuman where he's ripping his chest open, and that's because in that story there's a part where he's being gifted this beautiful, really like basically priceless jeweled necklace, I think it is, if I remember right. And he kind of like takes it and starts to look at it, and then he starts to bust it up. He puts it in his teeth and just busts it, and is like talking, saying this is worthless, because everybody's freaking out. Why? What are you doing? And he said, well, this is worthless. It doesn't have Ram's name on it anywhere. And then somebody says to him, well, if that's your logic, then why don't you do this, throw your body out? And so he rips his chest open to reveal that on every little bone and sinew and organ is written Ram, Ram, Ram. So there's your final little tidbit and why Hanuman is the poster boy of Bhakti, at least if you're asking me. All right, then. That was fun. We got, what, 5 chapters done today. Pretty sick. Hope you're all enjoying this very much, because I certainly am. And so, real quick, too, some plans for the future. So, we're going to do some readings from the Bible. We're going to stay doing some yoga things. We'll do a little bit of Kabbalah stuff, and then the stuff from Crowley too. Have any of you been putting those practices from Liber 3 into effect? Have any of you begun and been working on that? It's okay, answer me one way or the other. It's all right if you haven't. I just am curious if anybody has been. Kupti Jess, great session. Thank you. Sir Impeccable, definitely enjoyed it. Thank you. Minosis, you're welcome. I definitely have. Boy, my wrist feels real sore by the end of the day, as much as I've been snapping this rubber band. But I've been snapping it less and less, so it's been less and less sore. And that's the goal. Zero will hit the rewatch. Very good. All right, well, that doesn't answer the question about Liber 3, you guys. All right. Well, we'll take that as you're still working on getting around to it. Get around to it ASAP. Start with one, like I said, start with a control. So for me with the speech, what I decided is what I was planning to do anyway is cuss words. So for the unicorn aspect, swear words, cuss words, gotta go, gotta go. Man, control thy speech. And then with the thoughts, as I've already said too, my main one has been around the annoyance of other drivers. So when I'm out on the road doing my thing, instead of getting all worked up about all these, just like today, yet again, somebody who, for whatever reason, they were in such a hurry while I was out working on during lunch. They come up behind me, they're like tailgating me so close, and but see, I'm not letting myself be bothered by it. I'm just saying that this is what I observed happen though. Um, and so they go swerving around me and then go up and just to ride the tailgate of the truck that's in front of me. And then they go into the middle lane to go around that truck, like just pulling that Fast and Furious type. And it's just, well, I'm not going to be bothered by it, that's for sure, because then I'm going to have to snap my wrist with the rubber band. So that's for the thought, that's for the speech. And then once I feel I've got those pretty locked in, I'll go to the horse, to the action. And Coop says, haven't done that practice in a while. Maybe I'll hit it up again. Definitely do it. And same Sir Impeccable says, I will. Zero. Yeah, get on it, you guys. Just even start with a little bit. Start with whatever feels right to you. If you want to start with the horse, with the action, if you like Crowley gives those examples in there. Go rewatch that video and get started right away. There is no time like the present. Coop says cuss words, LOL. I don't suppress that much, too much. Yeah. Right when I'm driving, I get rageful sometimes at people. Sir Impeccable says, yeah, man. It's, oh boy. And Mothra says, I did the word I. I discovered I have an obsession with constantly referring to all phenomena to a non-existent self. Cool. That one is interesting when you were talking about that. I've heard that the I don't remember where I heard it. Um, I want to say it came from an Eastern teacher, a Swami, or might have even been from a Buddhist about, yeah, not using the first person. So like when you're doing things to say like he is driving or he is getting a drink or she, that type of thing, rather than saying I am driving, I am getting a drink. So very cool. Yeah, yeah, I remember you saying you got that one from Robert Anton Wilson. We might have to bust into one of his books at some point for sure, too. Cosmic Trigger would probably be a real good one, even though that's the only one I read so far. But it was fire. But I also know that pretty much everything he wrote was fire. Prometheus Rising would be cool. I know that's his book on magic. So we'll see. We're not going to go way too hard, but we'll keep it steady. I thank you all so very much for being here with me, for all of your contributions to the chat, for your contributions to the classroom, where we are all students. And right now, Swami Vivekananda is the teacher. Thank you, Swami Vivekananda. And again, thank you all. So much love to you all. This has been Jay Baldeo and Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga. If you're new, if you're coming in and you're just checking this out for the first time, be sure to hit a like, share, and subscribe. At least a like if you like the content. The newcomers today, Federicon and Joshua Watson, thank you for stopping by. And to everyone else, we will catch you on the next session. Bye bye.